Love dies in the body first, then in the mind. I noticed it in my hands, the way they stopped reaching for his side of the bed at 3 a.m., how they learned to fold his shirts without trembling, the morning I poured only 1 cup of coffee and didn't even realize it until I sat down. By the time I understood what was happening, my body had already begun the work of letting go. This isn't fiction. This is how love disappears, one small truth at a time. We used to laugh about the hours. Both of us working hospitality meant our clocks ran backward. We'd meet for breakfast at 2 p.m., trade stories over scrambled eggs about the drunk who proposed to a busboy or the bride who threw up in the ice machine. Our daughter Maya learned to sleep through anything: clinking bottles, late-night deliveries, the sound of us stumbling in at dawn smelling like fryer oil and exhaustion. We were tired together. That was its own kind of intimacy. When I took the daytime sous chef position at the culinary school, Derek said he was proud. We needed stability, he said. Maya needed a parent who could do pickup, who could make dinner that didn't come from a takeout container. He'd keep working the floor at Mercato, the Italian place downtown where the tips were good and the owners liked him, just for a while, just until we saved enough. Then Mercato closed. 3 weeks' notice. The owners cited rising costs, but everyone knew the truth. The head chef had been skimming, and when the money ran out, so did the dream. Derek came home that last night with a box of his things: 2 chef's knives, a lint roller, a photo of Maya he'd kept taped inside his locker. He set the box on our kitchen counter and stared at it like it contained evidence of a crime. "I'll find something," he said. And he did. Vesper, a new cocktail bar that opened near the airport. Upscale, he said. The kind of place where drinks cost $18 and came with flowers frozen in the ice. They needed experienced bartenders willing to work nights. The pay was good, better than good. "How long?" I asked. "Not forever," he said. "Just until something opens up on the day shift." I wanted to believe him. I think I did believe him at first. The thing about night shifts is they invert the world. You become a ghost in your own home, crossing paths with daylight people only in those thin moments of transition, when you're leaving and they're arriving, when you're asleep and they're awake. Derek started coming home after 3 a.m., sometimes closer to 4. I'd hear the front door, the shuffle of his shoes kicked off in the hallway, the creak of the bathroom door. By the time I woke for real at 6, he'd be asleep, face down, fully clothed sometimes, reeking of smoke and gin and something citrus I couldn't name. I learned to move quietly, to pull Maya's lunch together without clanking containers, to let the coffee maker hiss softly, to leave his breakfast wrapped in foil on the counter with a note I'd write, in the dim light, frittata, reheat 2 minute, love you. He'd text me around 2 p.m., groggy and sweet. "You're the best. Tell Maya I love her." And I'd send back a heart or a photo of her at the park, or sometimes just, "Come home safe." The routine calcified. Dinner became something I did with Maya alone. Spaghetti on Tuesdays, tacos on Thursdays, her little hands helping me grate cheese while she told me about the boy in her class who ate glue. She stopped asking when Daddy would eat with us. I stopped promising he would. Some weeks later, I realized I couldn't remember the last time we'd had a conversation longer than a text message. I'd leave notes. He'd leave notes. We orbited each other like planets that shared a sun, but never occupied the same sky. The fracture began with laundry. I was folding his work shirts, black, all of them, the uniform at Vesper, and I noticed the smell had changed. Not the smoke, that was expected. Not even the alcohol, which clung to fabric like a second skin. It was something else. Perfume, maybe. Floral and faint, but there. I held the shirt to my nose, trying to place it, then set it down fast, ashamed of myself. You're being paranoid, I thought. Bartenders work close, customers lean in. Women wear perfume, but my hands remembered. They folded the rest of his clothes carefully, precisely, like they were handling evidence. 2 days later, I found the receipt. It was in his jeans pocket, crumpled and damp from the wash. I almost threw it away, but something made me smooth it out against the dryer. Angelo's Diner. 11:47 p.m., 2 entrees, 1 slice of pie. Angelo's was nowhere near Vesper. It was south, near the old strip mall, the opposite direction from the airport. And his shift didn't end until 2 a.m. at the earliest. I stood in the laundry room holding that receipt, and the dryer kept tumbling, and the hum filled my ears until I couldn't think. Maybe he stopped on the way in, I told myself. Maybe he had a break, but Angelo's closed at midnight. I didn't ask him about it. That's the part I'm not proud of. I could have just asked. Instead, I started watching. Not obviously, not like in the movies where someone hires a private investigator or follows their spouse in a rented car. I just paid attention. I noticed that he'd started showering before he came home. His hair would still be damp at 3 a.m., smelling like the cheap motel soap we kept for guests. I noticed that his phone was always face down now, even when he was sleeping. I noticed that when I asked him how work was, he'd give me the same answer every time. Busy, exhausting, same as always. No stories, no details, just a script. One night, Maya asked him to read her a bedtime story. It was a Saturday, one of his rare evenings off, and she'd been carrying Where the Wild Things Are around all day like a talisman. He said yes, and I stood in the hallway listening to his voice go soft and slow the way it used to when she was a baby. When he finished, she asked him to read it again, and he did. And when he came out of her room, his eyes were red. "You okay?" I asked. "Just tired," he said. He pulled me close, wrapped his arms around me, and I felt his heartbeat against my cheek. For a moment, I let myself believe that everything was fine, that we were fine. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled back, checked it, and something in his face changed, tightened, closed. He typed something fast, shoved the phone back in his jeans. "Work?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "Inventory issue. I need to call my manager." He stepped outside to make the call. I watched him through the window, pacing on the driveway, one hand pressed to his forehead. He wasn't angry, he wasn't stressed, he looked worried. The kind of worried you get when you're protecting something fragile. When he came back in, he kissed my forehead and said he was going to bed early. He was asleep by 9, or pretending to be, and I sat alone in the living room, staring at the TV without watching it, wondering when I'd become the kind of person who didn't ask questions because I was afraid of the answers. The text came from Lena, a line cook I used to work with at Mercado. We weren't close, but we followed each other on social media, sent the occasional meme, kept that low-grade connection people maintain out of habit more than affection. "Hey, weird question. Saw someone who looked just like your husband at the airport Marriott tonight. Thought you should know, in case it wasn't him and there's a doppelganger running around, LOL. I read it 3 times. The airport Marriott was nowhere near Vesper, nowhere near anything Derek had claimed to be. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could ask, what was he doing? I could deflect. Probably wasn't him. I could ignore it entirely, let the message fade into the digital ether like it never existed. Instead, I wrote, "What time?" Lena's reply came fast. "Like 8:30? He was in the parking lot. Might not have been him, though. I didn't see his face up close." 8:30. Derek's shift at Vesper started at 7. He should have been 40 minutes into pouring overpriced gin by then. I set my phone face down on the counter. Maya was in the living room, watching cartoons in her pajamas, her small body curled into the couch like a shell. It was Tuesday. We'd had spaghetti. I'd done the dishes. Everything was exactly as it always was, except now there was a crack running through the center of my life, and I could hear it spreading. I told myself I wouldn't go. I put Maya to bed, kissed her forehead, tucked the blankets around her the way she liked. I poured a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and went to her room. "Baby," I whispered. "Wake up, we're going for a drive." She blinked at me, confused, still half asleep. "Where?" "Just a drive," I sobbed. "You can sleep in the car." I buckled her into her booster seat, wrapped her in a blanket, and she was asleep again before I'd left our street. I drove south, toward the airport, toward the cluster of hotels that lined the highway like a string of glass beads. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have a good reason. I just needed to see. The Marriott parking lot was half empty. I drove through it slowly, scanning the rows of cars, looking for one I'd recognize, looking for his. And then I saw it. Silver Honda, dent in the passenger door from when I'd backed into a pole 3 years ago. Maya's car seat still visible in the back window, even though she hadn't ridden in his car in months. License plate I'd memorized without meaning to. I parked 2 rows away and turned off my engine. The car sat in the far corner, under a broken streetlight, facing the side entrance. The hood was warm. I could see the faint shimmer of heat rising from the metal, even in the cool October air. He was here. My husband was here, at a hotel, at a time when he should have been pouring drinks 20 miles away. I sat in my car with my sleeping daughter in the back seat, and I understood that I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't come back from. I could drive home, pretend I'd never seen this, let the fracture seal itself with willful ignorance. I could save us, maybe, by choosing not to know, or I could walk through that door. I carried Maya inside. She was boneless with sleep, her head on my shoulder, her breath warm against my neck. The lobby was beige and bright, smelling like chlorine and fake lemon. A bored teenager behind the desk looked up, then looked away when I didn't approach. There was a seating area with stiff couches and a coffee station that had been turned off for the night. I sat down, adjusted Maya in my lap, and stared at the elevators. I didn't know what floor. I didn't know what room. I didn't even know if he was still here or if he'd already left through some exit I couldn't see. But I waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. Maya shifted in her sleep, murmuring something I couldn't make out. I stroked her hair and watched the elevator doors, and I felt the future splitting open in front of me. All the different lives I could have depending on what happened in the next hour. In one life, I was wrong. He'd come out with a coworker, laughing about some work crisis, and I'd feel foolish but relieved. In another life, I'd leave now, drive home, and never speak of this to anyone. In another life still, the elevator doors would open and I'd see something I couldn't unsee. At 9:47, the elevator dinged. The doors opened. Derek stepped out. He wasn't alone. She was younger than me. Not by much, maybe early 30s, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and a leather jacket I recognized because I'd helped him pick it out 2 Christmases ago. He'd said it was too expensive. I'd said he deserved something nice. She was wearing it now, and it fit her better than it had ever fit him. They were talking quietly, not touching, but the space between them was wrong. Too familiar, too comfortable. He said something and she laughed. Not loud, just a soft sound that carried across the lobby. And he smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. The smile he used to give me when we'd close down the restaurant together, exhausted and happy, before everything got so heavy. They walked toward the exit, still talking, and I sat frozen on the couch with Maya asleep in my arms. I could have called out. I could have stood up, made a scene, demanded answers. Instead, I watched them push through the glass doors into the parking lot, watched them walk side by side toward his car, watched him open the passenger door for her. That's when he saw me. His eyes met mine through the glass. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then his face changed, collapsed really, like someone had pulled a string and everything that held him upright had gone slack. The woman said something to him, followed his gaze, saw me sitting there with our daughter. She stepped back from the car, put her hands in her pockets, looked away. Derek walked back toward the lobby, slowly, like a man approaching the scene of an accident he'd caused. The conversation happened in the parking lot. I carried Maya to the car, buckled her in without waking her, and stood next to my open driver's door. Derek stood 10 feet away. The woman had disappeared. Into a rideshare, maybe, or back into the hotel. I didn't care. How long? I asked. It's not... He stopped, started again. 3 months. Does she know about me? Yes. Does she know about Maya? He nodded. His hands were shaking. I'd never seen his hands shake. Is it serious? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I didn't see a stranger. I saw the man I'd married in a courthouse on a Thursday because we couldn't afford a wedding. The man who'd stayed up all night when Maya had croup, holding her upright so she could breathe. The man who used to trace patterns on my back until I fell asleep. I saw all of it, and I saw that it was already gone. Had been gone, maybe, for longer than I wanted to admit. Were you ever going to tell me? I asked. I don't know, he said, and then quieter. I'm sorry. I waited for anger to come, for rage, for tears, for the urge to scream or throw something or hurt him the way he'd hurt me. But all I felt was tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. The night shifts, I said. Were they ever real? At first, he said. Then I switched to days. 2 months ago, I couldn't figure out how to tell you. 2 months. He'd been coming home at 3 a.m., for 2 months with nowhere to come from. 2 months of lies that I'd folded into laundry, packed into lunches, carried into bed with me each night. I need you to leave, I said. Tonight. Pack a bag. Stay wherever you've been staying. We'll figure out the rest later. Can I? He glanced toward the car, toward Maya's sleeping form in the back seat. Can I say goodbye to her? Not like this, I said. Not tonight. He nodded, reached into his pocket, pulled out his keys, and for a second I thought he was going to try to hug me. But he just stood there, holding them, looking at me like he was trying to memorize something he'd already lost. I didn't mean for this to happen, he said. I know, I said. And I did. That was the worst part. I believed him. He left his car at the hotel, rode home with me in silence. I kept my eyes on the road while he packed. I couldn't watch him choose what mattered enough to take. When he came back downstairs, he had one duffel bag and the box from Mercato, the one he'd never unpacked. He set them by the door. I'll come by this weekend, he said, to get the rest, if that's okay. Fine. He looked at Maya's door. Tell her I love her. You tell her, I said. When you're ready to explain where you've been, he left just after midnight. I heard his rideshare pull away, and then the house was silent in a way it had never been silent before. Not empty silent, relieved silent, like the walls themselves had been holding their breath. I checked on Maya, still asleep, her small hand curled under her cheek. I pulled the blanket higher, kissed her forehead, and stood in the doorway for a long time, wondering how I was going to explain that Daddy wouldn't be here for breakfast, that he wouldn't be here for a lot of things. Then I went to the kitchen and poured the rest of the wine down the sink. I washed the glass, dried it, put it away. And I stood at the counter in the dark, in the house we'd built together, and I let myself cry without sound. The days after felt like learning to walk with a bone that had healed wrong. Everything looked the same, but nothing worked quite right. I moved through routines I'd performed 1,000 times: breakfast, school drop-off, work, pickup, dinner, and every single one of them now had a hole where Derek used to be. Maya asked about him constantly at first. Where's Daddy? When is he coming home? Why isn't he here? I told her he was working a lot, that he was staying somewhere closer to his job for a little while. She accepted this with the easy trust of a 6-year-old who still believes adults have good reasons for what they do. I stopped wearing my ring after the first week, just slipped it off one morning while I was doing dishes, set it on the windowsill above the sink, and left it there. It sat among the other forgotten objects: a bottle cap, a twist tie, a button that had come off Maya's jacket, and every time I saw it, I felt nothing. That was worse than anger. Anger would have meant I still cared enough to hurt. Derek came by on Saturday to get his things. He brought boxes and packed quickly, efficiently, like he was checking items off a list. Maya clung to him the whole time, talking nonstop about school and the tooth she'd lost and the picture she'd drawn of all of us, holding hands. He listened with his full attention, nodding and asking questions. And when it was time for him to go, she cried so hard she threw up. I held her while he stood in the doorway, helpless. I'll see you next weekend, he promised her. We'll go to the park, maybe get ice cream. Why can't you just stay? She asked. He looked at me. I looked away. Mommy and Daddy need some time apart, he said. But I'm still your dad. That doesn't change. She didn't understand. How could she? I barely understood it myself. After he left, I found one of his shirts in the back of the closet. It still smelled like him, or like who he used to be before the secrets. I almost threw it away. Instead, I washed it, folded it, and put it in a box in the garage with the rest of the things I didn't know what to do with yet. Grief arrived in strange places. Not when I expected it, not in the big, empty moments, but in the small ones. When I heard a song we used to like. When I automatically reached for 2 plates instead of 1. When Maya asked if Daddy was proud of her science project, and I had to say I didn't know. I started therapy in November. Sat in a small office with a woman named Dr. Chen, who had a plant on every surface and a voice like warm honey. She asked me what I wanted. I don't know, I said. To understand, maybe, to stop feeling like I did something wrong. Did you? I don't think so, but I keep looking back, trying to find the moment where I could have stopped it, where I could have done something different. You can't rewrite history by analyzing it, she said. I knew that, but I kept trying anyway. At night, when Maya was asleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table with a glass of water and replay everything. The way he used to kiss me goodbye before work, the way we'd text each other stupid jokes during the day, the way he'd come home smelling like smoke and perfume and something I couldn't name, and I'd chosen not to name it because naming it meant facing it. I thought about the woman in the leather jacket, wondered if she knew she was borrowing a life or if she thought she was building her own, wondered if he told her the same things he used to tell me, or if he'd found new words for new promises. Mostly, I wondered if he was happy, and I hated that I still cared. By the time the leaves changed, we'd fallen into a new rhythm. Derek had Maya every other weekend and one evening a week. He'd pick her up on time, bring her back fed and bathed, and we'd stand in the doorway making small talk about logistics, school forms that needed signing, permission slips, the winter coat she needed. We were polite, careful, like diplomats negotiating a peace neither of us quite believed in. One evening in December, he showed up early. Maya was still finishing her homework, so I invited him in. We stood in the kitchen where we'd cooked together, fought, made up, planned a future that no longer existed. And the silence stretched between us like a canyon. I'm sorry, he said suddenly. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I'm sorry for all of it. I know you are. Does that help? Not really, I said. But I don't think it's supposed to. He looked around the kitchen like he was seeing it for the first time, or maybe for the last time. Are you okay? He asked. You and Maya? We're figuring it out. I think about her constantly, he said. About both of you. I think about how I ruined everything, and I can't. His voice cracked. He pressed his palm against his eyes. I can't figure out how to forgive myself. I wanted to tell him it wasn't my job to absolve him, that forgiveness wasn't something I owed him, especially when I was still learning to forgive myself for all the signs I'd ignored, all the questions I hadn't asked. But looking at him standing in the wreckage of what we'd built, I realized something. He was in pain too. Different pain, maybe. The pain of being the one who broke something beautiful because he was lonely or scared or just human in all the worst ways. You were unhappy, I said. I didn't see it, or I saw it and didn't know what to do. That's not your fault. Maybe not, but it's true, he nodded slowly. I met her at a conference, hotel bar. We just started talking, and it felt easy in a way nothing had felt easy in a long time. I should have stopped it, should have told you, should have done 1,000 things differently. He looked at me, but I didn't, and now we're here. Are you still with her? Yes. I waited for the pain to spike, but it didn't. It was just a fact, one more piece of information to file away. Do you love her? I asked. He was quiet for a long time, then, I think so. Maya came running into the kitchen, backpack bouncing, already talking about the movie they were going to see. Derek scooped her up, and I watched them leave. Watched him buckle her carefully into his new car, watched them drive away into the early winter dark. And I went back inside, made myself dinner, did the dishes, sat at the table with a cup of tea, and felt something that might have been peace, or might just have been exhaustion wearing a mask. Years can pass inside a single evening. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe everything that matters happens slowly, so slowly you don't notice until it's already done. The shift from love to habit, from trust to suspicion, from person to ghost. I think about that night at the hotel sometimes, the moment I saw him through the glass, laughing with someone who wasn't me. I think about all the choices that led there, his, mine, ours. I think about the woman he became someone else for, and I don't hate her. Not anymore. She didn't take anything that wasn't already gone. Maya asks fewer questions now. She's adjusted, the way children do, learning to live with the incompleteness of things. She has her room here, her room there. 2 birthday parties, 2 Christmases. She's learned to carry herself between worlds, and sometimes I envy her that skill. Dr. Chen asked me once if I thought I'd ever trust someone again. I didn't have an answer, but I've started to trust myself. To trust that I'll survive the next fracture when it comes, because fractures always come. That's what it means to love something fragile. Some nights when the house is quiet and Maya is asleep and I'm alone with my thoughts, I remember the good parts. The way Derek used to hum while he cooked, the way we'd finish each other's sentences, the way we built something real, even if it didn't last. And I let myself feel grateful for what we had, even as I grieve what we lost. I don't know if that's forgiveness or just time doing what time does, softening the edges, turning wounds into scars. Maybe they're the same thing. Last week, I ran into Lena at the grocery store. She saw me first, started to wave, then hesitated, like she wasn't sure if I'd want to see her. I waved back. We made small talk in the produce section. Work, weather, the price of avocados. She didn't mention the text. Neither did I. As I was leaving, she caught my arm. "Hey," she said. "I just want you to know, I'm glad you're okay." "Thanks," I said. "I am, mostly." "That's all any of us get," she said. Mostly, she was right. I drove home with groceries in the back seat, Maya's booster seat empty beside them, and I thought about all the versions of myself I'd been. The girl who fell in love with a line cook, the woman who believed in forever, the person who sat in a hotel lobby holding her sleeping daughter and watched her marriage end. All of them were still inside me, layered like sediment, each one a record of something that had happened and couldn't unhappen. And I thought about the future, the one I'm building alone now, or at least without him, the one where I teach Maya that love isn't failure just because it ends, that people can hurt each other without meaning to, that you can carry someone in your memory with tenderness and grief at the same time. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll face it the same way I faced everything else, by folding the laundry, making the meals, showing up for my daughter, and trusting that I'm stronger than I feel. Some mornings, I still pour 2 cups of coffee, force of habit. Then I pour the second one out, rinse the cup, and put it away. It doesn't hurt anymore. Or it does, but in a quieter way. The way old injuries ache when the weather changes. A reminder that something broke once and healed. I'm learning to live in the house we built together, even though he's gone, learning to make it mine. Our bed is just my bed now. His side of the closet holds Maya's art supplies. The photos on the wall are still there, but I don't avoid them anymore. That was us. We were happy once. Both things are true. And late at night, when the world is still and Maya is dreaming and I'm alone with the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic, I think about how love doesn't always die screaming. Sometimes it just fades, gentle and inevitable as daylight, leaving you standing in a familiar room that no longer recognizes you. I never stopped loving him. I just stopped waiting for him to come home.